Hey everyone, welcome again to another short video courtesy of investingsuccess.ca. Today is the 14th of August, 2023. Here's a trivia observation for you. Did you know that every year the world produces nearly 2 billion tons of steel? And did you know that of this annual 2 billion tons of production, about half of it comes from our friends in China? But here's the problem. China right now is facing demographic challenges. That's a pretty mild way of putting it. In other words, their population is getting older. And if you look at this graph in this slide, at the left-hand side of the graph is the year 2010. And then as you move towards the middle, you get into the late 2020s, 2030s, 2040s. And basically what you can see is, if you look at the arrows that I've overlaid, the red histogram bars depict the number of people that are 65 years and over. What do you see? That number of people, that cohort, is getting bigger. The population is getting older. The black histograms depict the number of people between the ages of 15 and 64. What do you see? It's trending down. They're running out of young people to work. So, if China wants to continue making half of the steel in the world and arguably, big portions of other things, where are they going to get the people from? This is a major conundrum. Now, it's a conundrum that is or has not gone unnoticed. As China grapples with its demographic issues, as China looks to fill gaps in its workforce, believe me, American steelmakers, they've taken notice. And they're not going to sit around waiting for China to get its act together and to make more people. U.S. steelmakers are going to basically kick China to the curb. U.S. steelmakers are going to fill the gap, as it were, and keep an eye on companies like Cleveland Cliffs, keep an eye on companies like U.S. Steel. Now, the traditional steelmaking process, and if I think back to my days in the steel industry, the traditional process involved a blast furnace. And a blast furnace is a big, essentially, chemical reaction chamber. You charge it with iron ore and you charge it with metallurgical coal, and you basically set that mixture on fire by injecting oxygen into it. And what you're going to produce in the blast furnace is molten pig iron. And then the pig iron is further smelted in what is called a basic oxygen furnace. And that's the image depicted at the right-hand side of this chart. And so it doesn't take a lot of imagination to realize that, you know what, the traditional steelmaking process is generating a lot of greenhouse gas emissions. So now, as China slows down on the steelmaking front, and as North American companies swiftly move in to pick up the slack, they're not going to just continue with the traditional steelmaking process. There's going to be some changes. The next big theme that you're going to hear about, and you're already hearing about it, the next big theme in the world of steel is decarbonized steel. Some people are going to refer to it as green steel. But basically, instead of emitting vast amounts of carbon dioxide from blast furnaces and basic oxygen furnaces, you're going to take your iron ore pellets from the iron ore mine and you're going to put them through a chemical reduction process, and you are going to make what is called direct reduced iron pellets. Now, these things are going to be fed into an electric arc furnace, and they're going to be melted, and alloy elements are going to be added to the molten steel. The bottom line is the decarbonized approach to making steel, the green process, if you will, is going to emit far less carbon dioxide than the traditional approach to steel making. So get ready to hear about this. It's coming. It's already here. Now, the other day, I was looking at some of the first trade charts for steelmakers, and Cleveland-Cliffs, it's one of the oldest ones in the U.S., and it was founded way back in 1847. And I noticed the other day that Saturn, there we go. I noticed that Saturn was passing by the natal Saturn position at 6 degrees of Pisces. And I mean, Saturn takes, about 30 years to go around the zodiac wheel one time. And so anytime you have Saturn passing the natal Saturn, that's a 1 in 30 year event. Events like that usually get my attention. And so I said to myself, something is going to happen here with Cleveland-Cliffs. Maybe the price is going to have a significant drop. Maybe the price is going to have a significant rise. I don't know. I can't really say, but I just knew that Saturn was at natal Saturn and something was going to happen. The other thing I noticed that as of yesterday, the transiting moon was passing by the natal moon. And so now you've got a major outer planet passing by its natal position, and you've got the moon acting as something of a trigger. So again, I said something is going to happen with respect to Cleveland-Cliffs. I don't know what, but something is potentially going to happen. And happen it did. Headline news. We woke up on Monday morning to hear that Cleveland-Cliffs made an unsolicited offer to take over rival U.S. steel producer, U.S. Steel. And if you look at what the headlines are saying, the bid comes at a time when producers, including U.S. Steel, are predicting that domestic demand is going to benefit from green energy infrastructure and manufacturing projects bolstered by the Biden administration's Inflation Reduction Act. So in other words, what the Biden administration is doing with its Bidenomics is it's striving to make America great again, and it's going to try to, improve the infrastructure in the economy, but anything that gets built from steel is going to be built using steel produced by the decarbonized method or the green energy method. And so Cleveland-Cliffs is smart enough to see this. So what do? Of course, they're going to take over one of their competitors. They're not only going to kick China to the curb, but they want to become the dominant player in the green steel revolution that is going to be sweeping the country. Now, as far as U.S. Steel, if I look at the natal chart and if I look at the transiting planets, I notice that transiting Saturn is right at the U.S. Steel natal midheaven location. That's interesting. So again, Saturn is a once in 30 year trip around the zodiac, and to see it parked at the natal midheaven of U.S. Steel, just as Cleveland-Cliffs is making an offer to buy U.S. Steel. Yeah, very interesting. And what else do we have here? I've got Sun and I've got Venus, both together in the sign of Leo. And look what they're doing. They are passing the natal Mars location for U.S. Steel. So again, looking at this on the evening of the 13th of August or the morning of the 14th, one would have been tempted to say, oh, well, this is interesting. Something is going to happen on U.S. Steel. Something is going to happen on Cleveland Cliffs. I just never imagined that it would be a takeover, a merger and acquisition type event. But you see, the point is, astrology, it drives the cycles of the economy. It drives the cycles of mergers and acquisitions. And all you have to do is look at the transiting planets, look at where they are relative to the natal planets, and you can generally get some sort of a sense that, something potentially is going to happen. So I think the steel industry in the U.S. As a whole has been given a wake-up call, and I think you're going to see a lot of activity in the U.S. steel industry. You're going to see this whole transition to green steel, decarbonized steel. It's been given a shot in the arm and a kick in the pants, and I think you're going to see the entire steel industry recreate itself very quickly. All right, that's it for me. So do keep your eye then on not only U.S. Steel and Cleveland Cliffs, but other steel makers too. I mean, there's Nucor, there's Steel Dynamics. Here in Canada, we've got Algoma Steel, we've got Stelco. Keep an eye on all of it because things are changing. All right, don't be shy. Visit me on my website, investingsuccess.ca. I've got the astrology letter. I've got the cycles report. Getting a lot of followers these days on Substack. You'll find me there under the handle Planetary Trader. The good news is I have now completed the first draft of the 2024 Financial Astrology Almanac. Made a lot of changes to it, and it's easier to navigate through. And I've just cut back on the number of charts that I'm showing in it. And it's a very different feel, different look, and there's a lot more emphasis on the impact of the moon and the lunar cycles on individual stocks and the markets. And don't forget, you can find me also on udemy.com, and my most recent book was Follow the Trend, Know When to Buy and When to Sell. All right, that's it for me for now, so thank you kindly for taking the time to listen to this short video. And do keep your eye on the entire U.S. steel industry. Big things are happening. Talk to you soon.